Today's goal is to practice a little bit of gradient work as well as just creating really cohesive color schemes with a little bit of refresher on the shape builder tool. Just because it's so important to us, it's good to always practice using it. So we're going to start off with our check for understanding. I'm going to zoom in here and you see I've given you this very simple square. Your job is to select it and add a very realistic underwater color gradient. Now you can choose the style of gradient you like. Remember that it really helps to use your gradient panel or your gradient tool. All our panels are under window. So I'm going to take my gradient tool. I want it linear and I'm just going to take a minute or two and really build a really nice gradient. Shades of blue that go from light to dark. Okay, I'm happy with that gradient. I'm going to drag this over now into this underwater scene. Now it's on top of everything, so I'm going to have to go to Object, Arrange, and send it to back. If I realize once I'm here that I want more lightness, I can go to my gradient tool and really control, how much light is in this versus darkness and get more creative, but it's good to have a good base. Step 2 of today is going to be just spending some time really coloring the rest of these elements for this underwater scene to include realistic and well thought out gradients. What I mean by it is make sure everything looks cohesive and looks like it belongs together. For example, if I want this coral to be like a nice orange, I'm going to add a gradient and really make it look natural in the scene. One thing I'm doing for each shape is once I've colored it, I'm going to remove the stroke. It just looks much more realistic this way and natural. When you're done coloring this whole scene, make sure all the gradients are different. You're going to go down to the main part of today, which is relying on our handy dandy shape builder tool. What I've asked you to do is create 2 more sea creatures to put into your scene. I've made all the sea creatures from basic shapes that you can create with your shape tool. And I've tried to break it down so you can see the how I did this. So let's say you wanted to do a cute little whale over here. I've showed you the final product as well as all the shapes that you're going to need and what I used to make those shapes. For example, for the base of the whale, I took my rectangle tool, I took my little direct selection tool and I pulled these little handles in to make it more rounded. If it helps you, you can place your shapes right over my shapes just to make sure they match up. Then I used a regular rectangle, and then I went to my shape builder tool, selected them both, shape builder, held down Alt to remove, and now I have a good base for the whale. The last thing I did was take my direct selection tool, my white arrow, and move some of these handles just to be a little more rounded on either end. The last thing I'm going to ask you to do is make sure you add a realistic gradient for each of these cute little characters. You only have to do 2 out of the 3, and each shape is kind of shown here for you. Once you're done making your characters, you're going to add them to this pretty scene. If you happen to finish early, you can try creating this buried treasure to add to your underwater scene. Remember to rely on gradients, cohesive colors, and good shape builder tool technique.